Welcome back, everybody, to the Davoo Say So podcast. Here we talk about the latest sports topics and events. I'm your host, David, also known as Davoo. What a Super Bowl Sunday we just got finished up with, man. A lot of people, I was shocked. A lot of people, during the game, especially in the first half, were talking about how mid it was. Everybody was like, oh, man, this game is really slow. This game's kind of mid. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of a defensive matchup. Turnovers were still going on, so it made everything interesting. I actually kind of liked the defensive back and forth that was going on. I thought it was pretty entertaining from start to finish. Didn't watch the Usher halftime show because, I have no interest in watching Usher. I'm sorry. I heard it was great, but, I doubt it. But aside from those things, we got a historic classic Super Bowl matchup. It was great to watch, great to see. A lot of storylines to get into. So we're going to get straight into it with the Chiefs winning their third Super Bowl in 5 seasons. This is back-to-back Super Bowls, which is the first that this has happened in 20 years, I believe, when the Broncos did it with Terrell Davis, Shannon Sharpe, and John Elway. And, from where this team started off during the season, mid-season, having all those drops, this has been the most impressive Super Bowl that I have seen in a while. And we're going to get into, the GOAT debate as far as where Mahomes stands and where Brady is now. But I think as far as individual accomplishments, this has to be the toughest or the best ring for a quarterback that we've seen ever. I mean, it's no question. You talk about Mahomes and the Chiefs going through 4 of the top 6 offenses in the league. You went at Buffalo, which was a 2 seed. You beat them. Went to Baltimore, which is a 1 seed. You beat them. And, of course, you played San Fran in a neutral site and beat them. They were a number 1 seed as well. 4 teams, including Miami, that are in the top 6 offenses in the NFL. It's just impressive. And, credit goes to the defense as well. They play lights out this whole offseason. This whole postseason. In the second half is where they really turned it up and they were able to do, wonders. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. And as we will see in this game, he just did a wonder. But starting off in this game, I thought San Fran had firm control of what was going on. They got off to a great start with I know Chris McCaffrey had a turnover early, but, they did a great job of getting pressure on Mahomes. Chase Young started the game off really well. Him and Bosa really did a great job of getting pressure on Mahomes. Listen, they had some tough breaks. They had tough breaks in this game. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw going out with that freakish Achilles injury by just running on the field. That was just devastating. Now you put in Burks, who has been on the sidelines for majority of the season, and he has to come in and basically guard Travis Kelce. That's an impossible job. So you can't really discredit him for that. And then, of course, the muffed fumble really wasn't muffed. McLeod saw one of the guys on San Fran, his foot hit the back of the ball, and he had no choice but to go for it, and he couldn't recover it. So bad breaks is what cost San Fran this game. I also think that them not being able to capitalize off turnovers, off 3 and outs in the third quarter, I kind of got a sense that, Patrick Mahomes was going to find a way to get this win once San Fran went 3 straight 3 and outs, especially after the turnover with Patrick Mahomes' interception. Patrick Mahomes is a guy who doesn't turn the ball over that much in the postseason. I think that turnover in the second half was his first interception in 7 postseason games. So when he gives you the ball, you have to take advantage of it. And that's something that San Fran wasn't able to do. They went 3 straight 3 and outs in the third quarter. And then on top of that, had the muff punt. And then San Fran, or very next play, came back and scored. Momentum shifts just like that. So that instance, I think, is what really cost them the game. Obviously, San Fran was able to make plays, get right back in it. And then overtime comes. And this is where things get kind of dicey. We'll go before overtime. That last drive that Patrick Mahomes put up with Kelce to get in field goal range. I was telling a bunch of my friends who I was watching the Super Bowl with, every time San Francisco went and trotted out Moody for a field goal, I just looked at one of my homeboys and said, You're not going to win this game putting up 3 points. You're not going to beat Mahomes putting up 3 points. You're not going to beat Mahomes putting up 3 points. And I feel like in certain instances they could have went for it. I definitely think on the fourth or the 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4 in overtime when they had a chance to go up 7 right away in overtime, I feel like they should have went for it on 4th down. Obviously, if you don't get it, hey, your defense has to keep Mahomes 91 yards from the end zone. They would have started off at the 10 or something like that. And then obviously you got Christian McCaffrey. I would have ran it again on 3rd down, knowing I was going for it on 4th to try to make it even shorter, see if he can get a couple yards, and then go with the pass game on 3rd and short. But what happened was Chris Jones and the defense was just disrupting everything. You know, Brock Purdy had a wide open Juwan Johnson or Debo for the touchdown, but he couldn't give him the ball because he couldn't step into it because of Chris Jones. And this is the same play that, you know, he made on Josh Allen just a couple weeks before, where he disrupted the whole flow of the game and disrupted the whole pass and wasn't able to connect. So Chris Jones, you know, giving Kansas City all his money's worth. And so if I was San Fran, I would have went for it right there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you know, I feel like Steve Wilks caught a great game with the defense. Did a great job of getting pressure, dropping back in coverage. Obviously, you lose Greenlaw, so, you know, there's nothing really you can do about that. The one thing I feel like he messed up was on, I believe it was 3rd and short before, this is pre-overtime when they were driving to score, and Steve Wilks blitzed. And Mahomes hit Rashee Rice on a crosser and was able to get downfield for big yardage. I wouldn't have blitzed. I don't like blitzing Mahomes, especially in the crunch time, because a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, you can't just let him sit back there and carve you up. That I agree with, yes. But, you know, San Fran was able to generate pressure from their front four pretty easily to that point in the game. And I just don't like taking Fred Warner out of coverage, you know, in a situation like that, especially when Burks is being carved up on those shallow crossers. You know, you would have liked to see Fred Warner be able to do something in that situation. So I don't really like blitzing Mahomes because he always knows when you're going to blitz. You can't fool Mahomes. You can't. There's no disguise. There's no illusion you can create that makes Patrick Mahomes think you're not going to blitz. He knows the blitz is coming and he's going to audible at the line. And so I wouldn't have done that in that moment. But outside of then, you know, Steve Wilks caught a great game. I don't like the fact that he got fired, and this is just me, you know, cutting short or something. I don't like the fact that he got fired. I feel like that San Fran just looking for somebody to blame. I thought he caught a great game. It's just nothing you can do. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, 2 game-winning drives in the same game. Well, not game-winning, but game time, and obviously the game-winning drive. So, you know, it's just some point where you're watching the game, and you know Patrick Mahomes is going to get it done. You know he's going to get the job done. And Travis Kelce came along the ride too. First half, you know, San Fran had him boxed pretty much. And in the second half, he turned up. I think, again, a lot of that alludes to Dre Greenlaw going out. But, you know, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce, so he's going to get his credit too. And the other guys stepped up for Kansas City. You know, Mecole Hardman, a guy who started the year off on the Jets, got traded almost mid-season, making impact plays. Obviously, Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a touchdown, a couple of big plays as well. Justin Watson had some plays too. So this Kansas City team, you know, throughout this whole year, all the talk about their receiving core, and that was a big part of it, saying that they weren't good enough to win, you know, bend but don't break. And when the playoffs came, they were able to turn up and get the job done. Moving on to, obviously, the outside stories, we're going to start off with San Fran. And I'm sorry, guys. I will never understand the Brock Purdy hate that he's getting right now and that he's been getting all season. I don't know if it's because he's the last pick in the draft. I don't know if it's because I don't know what it is. But I'm hearing people on all these sports shows and these podcasts saying like, yeah, you know, this game really shows that Brock Purdy's good, but he's not special. And I'm like, no, of course he's not special. He's the last pick in the draft. I don't know how many guys who go last in the draft are special. We know Brock Purdy wasn't. We know he's not special. We know that. The main questions we had going into this postseason and going into the Super Bowl was, will Brock Purdy, number one, be the reason why this team loses the Super Bowl? Number two, can Brock Purdy go out and make plays when it is needed in situations where San Fran is down or in clutch situations? And he proved both of those things. He proved both of them. He was not the reason why San Fran lost his game. They lost his game because they had a bad break with the month pump and a couple of defensive relapses, and they weren't able to execute offensively on a couple of drives. Now, obviously, I think it was 4 for 12 or 3 for 12 on third down. Yes, a lot of that is his fault. But at the end of the day, he gave them a chance to win, which was another main question. Will he give you a chance to win in the biggest moments? Brock Purdy, and I can pull up these stats right now. Brock Purdy, most fourth quarter OT go-ahead drives in the Super Bowl. This is just careers. Tom Brady has 9 and 10 games. Patrick Mahomes has 4 and 5 games. Eli Manning has 3 and 2. Brock Purdy has 3 fourth quarter OT go-ahead drives. And this is his first Super Bowl. This is his first Super Bowl. And he already has 3 go-ahead drives. Already has 3. And then you look at this. Let's just look at for how many times guys did it in one single game. Purdy obviously has 3. Mahomes versus the Eagles has 2. Eli has 2 versus the Patriots. And Brady has 2 versus the Panthers. So Brock Purdy has the most go-ahead fourth quarter and overtime drives in one single game in NFL Super Bowl history. And people are really blaming him like, oh yeah, he's not special. I just don't understand why people have been moving the goalposts. At first it was, oh, he's a game manager. Now it's, oh, well, can he lead a team when he's down? And then he did it, and then everybody's like, oh, well, Green Bay's not that good, even though everybody had Green Bay losing to the Cowboys by double digits, and they did that. And then he did it against Detroit, and it was like, yeah, well, Detroit, they cost themselves the game. Now he comes in the Super Bowl and does what everybody asked him to do, and people are like, oh, yeah. Like I heard some people say, even before the game, people were saying, in order for me to prove, or in order for me to see that if Brock Purdy's really that guy, he has to go win the Super Bowl. I just want to make something clear. You're telling me the only way that Brock Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft, can prove to you that he's a legitimate starting quarterback that could win on a Super Bowl team is if he beats Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. There's only one guy in NFL history that has able to do that. And his name is Tom Brady. So you telling me that in order for Brock Purdy to be submitted as a top 10 quarterback, he has to do something that only the greatest quarterback in the NFL currently has been able to do. And I'm sorry, listen, I love Lamar Jackson. I love Josh Allen. You got to think about quarterbacks like Tua, Dak. Brock Purdy has already done more than those guys as far as postseason success. If this was Trevor Lawrence, people would be singing his praises religiously. But because Brock Purdy's 5'10", undrafted, doesn't have the charismatic, the aesthetics that everybody loves from a quarterback, everybody's just moving the goalposts. Brock Purdy clearly, and not even close, played his best game of the playoffs. And it was in the biggest moment when they needed it. So I don't want to hear no more talk about Brock Purdy being a game manager. I saw him make plays in that game that should have won them the game. I saw him scramble in the pocket and make plays with his legs and create and to scramble in the pocket and make plays with his arms as well. I saw him throw guys open. I saw him make a game-winning drive. Yes, they could have came up with 6 on the last one because, he missed the throw. But it was pressure in his face. And so I understand, yes, could more have been done? Of course, but we're not just going to sit up here and act like Brock Purdy didn't shut down all the critics, because the critics said he wouldn't even get there in the first place. And so all I know is Brock Purdy is a cemented top 10 quarterback. He's better than Kirk Cousins. He's better than Dak Prescott. He's better than Tua. And to me, if he continues this, he can easily creep into the top 7, top 6. I'm not saying he's top 3 or nothing like that. Obviously Brock Purdy is not special. We know that. But that wasn't the question going into this postseason. The question wasn't, is Brock Purdy special? The question was, is he good enough to be the reason why this team wins the Super Bowl and not be the reason why they lose? Now, obviously, we still don't know the answer to the first one because they haven't won a Super Bowl. But we know for dang sure he's not the reason why they lost this Super Bowl. We know that. And that's all I've been trying to tell people. So the whole game manager title, we have to dead that. The whole Jimmy Garoppolo titles, we have to dead that. Because Jimmy Garoppolo was the reason why San Fran didn't win that Super Bowl 4 or 5 years ago versus the Kansas City Chiefs. He was the reason why. Because he couldn't put up the drive that Brock Purdy put up. And Brock Purdy, there's no shame in losing to Mahomes. He's the greatest quarterback in his generation. Arguably the greatest ever. There's no shame in losing to Patrick Mahomes. Which is why I'm so baffled that people are like, oh yeah, the only way he can prove to me he's great is if he beat Patrick Mahomes. Bro, you're asking him to do something that only Tom Brady has done. Let's be real. That's that. Kyle Shanahan. Man, a lot of people are talking about, is Kyle Shanahan, is he ever going to get over the top? I hear a lot of people making comparisons to him and Andy Reid from Philly. A guy who's a great offensive-minded coach, just wasn't able to get over the hump, wasn't able to win the big game. Listen, Kyle Shanahan has had some really bad luck in the Super Bowl. The 3 Super Bowl he's been in. Obviously, one as the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, and then 2 with San Francisco. I just think I don't really look at this situation and put blame on Shanahan. I don't think there's anything Shanahan could have possibly done. I mean, he called a great game offensively. I don't think there was any real mistake that he made that was just like, I thought he called a pretty great game, and it just ran into Mahomes in a scenario where he was called to be great, and he just was, and there was nothing you could do about that. And I feel like that's kind of the case. That's what it's been for majority of the Super Bowls he's been in. The only one I really blame him for is Atlanta, because me as an Atlanta fan myself, I can attest to. Once we went up 28-3, the play calling was pass when it should have been ran. Especially after Julio caught the 27-yard bomb that pretty much should have iced the game. He should have ran the ball and he didn't. I feel like he was trying to get Matt Ryan MVP. But, I can put direct blame on him for that because he's the play caller in that situation. Him being in San Francisco in these last 2 games, I don't think he could do anything about, Patrick Mahomes on offense making big plays. And then obviously the one with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo, the play was dialed up perfectly. Jimmy Garoppolo just missed Emmanuel Sanders by a mile on the deep ball that could have put the game on ice. That's not Kyle Shanahan's fault. And so I think these last 2 Super Bowls, Kyle Shanahan is becoming a victim of his own success. And once you become so good, you get into these positions just to run into a great quarterback and hit a wall, and then everybody's blaming you now. It sucks, but it comes with the territory. And, I think if Kyle Shanahan doesn't run into Patrick Mahomes, maybe he might have a couple rings right now. But, it's just the case. And you also got to think about it. The 3 Super Bowls that Kyle Shanahan has been in were against Tom Brady and Mahomes. And it's really hard to beat those guys. So, again, the same thing with Brock Purdy. I can't really give Shanahan too much flack. You know, he didn't put the team in position not to be successful. He called the right plays when needed, and guys did their job for the most part. And down the stretch, you know, defensively they kind of broke down, and so I can't really put blame on Shanahan for that. I still think he's a great coach. Still think he's a top 3 coach, if not top 2. You know, especially when it comes to offensively, he's probably number 1. Maybe Andy Reid still is at the top of the mountain tree, and then Sean McVay. But I don't think you would put any blame on Kyle Shanahan for this. Moving on to the champs, though. Listen, these last couple of days, I've enjoyed watching everybody's GOAT lists. Where does Patrick Mahomes, you know, fall in the list? Where is he ranked? What does this mean he's the GOAT? Listen, if you've listened to the podcast, you know, for the last 4 years since 2020 when I first started, I've been real adamant about saying that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, and he's the greatest quarterback, period, the GOAT. Now, when I and I've explained this before on here, when I say Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT, I'm not necessarily saying he's the GOAT right now. I'm calling him the GOAT just early. I'm anticipating that he's going to be the GOAT. I'm just calling it early because that's how for sure I am that he's going to be. It's kind of like you buy a pair of shoes. Let's say you buy some Jordans, and a friend asks you, hey, you got those Jordans that just dropped? And you tell him yes. Now, obviously, do you have the Jordans physically? No, the Jordans haven't been delivered to your house yet. But they are bought and paid for, and they are on the delivery. They're on the way. So you're not going to tell him, no, I didn't get them. No, you did get them, but they're just not at your house yet. They're not at your disposal. It's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Is he the GOAT now? Obviously, no. John Brady's still the GOAT. But he's going to be. So that's what I mean by calling him the GOAT now. But that was 4 years ago when I said that. This is 2 Super Bowls, an MVP, and the greatest Super Bowl by an individual player ever. Listen, I sat back and thought about this. I took some time, you know. I go through 3 stages, or 2 stages, matter of fact, anytime I, you know, watch sports and come back and get ready to do the show. There's the fan in me that has the instant reactions that could be outrageous, could be genius. Most times it's biased. Most times they're outrageous. This fan mind state takes. And then I sleep on it, wake up, come in the next day, and really, you know, decode everything that I just watched and review film and whatnot. And so on this particular topic, is if we're talking about if Patrick Mahomes is the greatest, he might be right now. And the reason why I say he might be right now is obviously Brady has the 7 chips, you know, he has the records. And, you know, I won't say he is right now just because of how much Brady has done. But I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. We're in year 6 and he's got 3 rings. And it's not, you know, and I know Brady started off his career, he had a dynasty as well, but everybody knows Brady was pretty much a game manager for those early New England Patriots teams. And those teams were pretty much known for their defense. You know, they shut down the number 1 offense in the Indianapolis Colts with MVP Peyton Manning, the greatest show on turf they held in check, and as well as Donovan McNabb. So that team was really, the catalyst of that team was that defense. All these whole 5 years that Patrick Mahomes has been in the league, it's been all up to Patrick Mahomes. Remember, you got to remember, the first couple of years of Mahomes' career, their defense was terrible. I mean, just god awful. God awful. They was ranked bottom 5 in every category. And Patrick Mahomes was carrying this team. It's always been up to Patrick Mahomes. Always. And again, I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. Year 6, 3 championships, 2 MVPs. And has been in a Super Bowl almost every single year of his career. And it's been all up to him. This particular year, though, with the problems they had at receiving corps, They had over 30 drops as a team. Mahomes just let that sink in. Mahomes just won a Super Bowl with the receiving core that had 30 drops in a season and went on the road versus number 2 and number 1 seed and went to the Super Bowl and beat a number 1 seed with the receiving core that had 30 drops. Mind you, this is the same team who traded away Tyreek Hill, the best receiver in the NFL, too many, and got better. And he actually got better. So I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at who he's beaten in the Super Bowl. I'm also looking at, performances. And we have a stat right here. Patrick Mahomes, record when trailing by 7+. 9-2 in the postseason. He's 9-2. Brady's 10-11. He's 10-11 in games where they're trailing by 7+. The entire history of NFL when it comes to quarterbacks, 152 and 503. Mahomes is 7 games over 500 when trailing by 7 or more. I'm looking at this, and if somebody says Patrick Mahomes the GOAT, they won't really get a debate out of me. Now, me personally, I think he's already better than Montana. I will put him over Montana right now. I know Montana has one more Super Bowl, but they have the same amount of MVPs, and Joe Montana had Jerry Rice for a lot of those years. Patrick Mahomes out here winning with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He just won back-to-back titles with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. These are the guys he's winning dynasties with. Average receivers at best. Guys who would probably be on the practice squad for, a lot of teams in the NFL. You got Kadarius Toney crying about playing time. You got Rashee Rice as a rookie who's already your best receiver, clearly. Mecole Hardman, who, they gave up and then got back because the Jets didn't want him. These are the guys Mahomes is winning championships with. And so I'm looking at that like, this guy is 6 years in. He's carrying his team, already a dynasty. There's no way. You can't tell me that he's not going to get at least 2 more or 3 more. And I said 5 is the magic number for him being the GOAT. 5 would be the magic number for Mahomes to be at GOAT status. But there's no way. You can't tell me Mahomes is not getting at least 2 more chips. And he's going to have the records because he's going to play for a long time. He's only 26, 27. So it's inevitable at this point that he's going to surpass Brady. It's inevitable. But, we have to have respect for Brady at the same time because what he did was phenomenal. And, like I said, I won't call him the GOAT just yet, but I will say that he will be in due time. I think in 3 or 4 years, we could be looking at Mahomes as the greatest quarterback of all time by far. I definitely think that he's past Montana. And I slept on that. Somebody kind of put it in my ear after the Super Bowl, and I was like, I don't know. And then I look at the numbers. I'm looking at, like I said, Montana only has 1 more MVP. They have this 1 more Super Bowl. They have the same amount of MVPs. Now, a lot of people bring up Montana's stats in the Super Bowl. Obviously 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. But again, you're playing with Jerry Rice. You're playing with the running back Roger. You got all these great pieces. Mahomes is out here playing with, Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson. Obviously, he has Travis Kelce. But, I don't think you can just, if this team doesn't have Patrick Mahomes, if you throw any other quarterback in this scenario, I don't think that Kansas City is winning the Super Bowl. I just don't. And there's a lot of good quarterbacks that I like out there, but I don't think you throw any other quarterback in this system and they're just going to win like that. I don't. I think Patrick Mahomes is clearly this head of the snake, and is the spoon, if you will, that stirs the cup. And so you're looking at his playoff performances, what he's done. Like I said, 9-2 in games when trailing by 7 points. This is a guy who you know is never out of this. He's not out of any game, and just clutch. And you know he has that Brady feel where it's like you just know he's gonna come up big. Like you just know it. Like there's no like, oh my gosh, it's just no. Like you knew it as soon as San Fran kicked the field goal in overtime. I was like they lost. Like they lost. You're not gonna beat Mahomes scoring 3 points in overtime. We've seen this movie many times. So yeah, I think Mahomes he's top 3 for sure. I think he's top 3. I can give my list right now. Number 1 is Tom Brady. Number 2 is Mahomes. Number 3, I have who do I have? Number 3, I have Peyton Manning. Number 3, I have I'm forgetting my list right now. I got Tom Brady, Mahomes, Peyton. Who is my 4? Give me some time, yo. I was literally talking to this with my dad and one of my friends from the church too the other week. Brady, Mahomes, Peyton. I had Rodgers in there. Rodgers is my 5th, but I'm trying to figure out who my 4th was. Wow, I'm really forgetting this. I cannot think who my 4th is. And I know it's somebody important. Give me 1 second, y'all. I gotta find this out. Because I don't know how I don't remember this. But I know for a fact the 4 guys were the 4 that I have in there were Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, and Peyton. And who is my 4th? I don't know why I can't think of my 4th. Give me 1 second. That might be it. So, Tom Brady, Mahomes, Peyton Manning. Oh, Montana. That's who it is. Montana. Okay, I forgot. I don't know. I'm having brain farts. But, okay, so my top 10 quarterback list right now, if I had to make one. Brady 1, Mahomes 2, Montana 3, Peyton 4, Aaron Rodgers 5. And I know Aaron Rodgers is kind of interchangeable to me with John Elway. Me personally, I would go with Rodgers. I know he doesn't have as much playoff success as John Elway, but you know, I hold MVPs to a high standard pretty much. And if you have the MVP with the Super Bowl combination, you know, I think you could easily be in top 5. Especially he's got 4. He's got 4 MVPs, you know, and he's playing in an era with prime Tom Brady, prime Peyton Manning, you know, that sustained excellence and being the best quarterback. You know, I think John Elway was great, but I think for a large part of the, you know, the late 80s, early 90s, I feel like Dan Marino was looked at as a better quarterback and as the best quarterback in the NFL for majority of that time than Elway was, in my opinion. But yeah, I have Rodgers at 5, Peyton at 4, Montana at 3, Mahomes at 2, Brady at 1. But in 3 years, Mahomes is going to take that number 1 spot. Trust and believe that.